the Crown's ask to have Chris Barber sentenced to 8 years and Tamara Lich sentenced to 7 years
Yeah.
for hot tubs and bouncy castles that interrupted the fancy lives of Ottawa bureaucrats.
Yeah.
Contrast those 2 things. Like, square that circle for me, Canada. How does this at all make sense?
Yeah. And we've got Tamara. She just arrived in Ottawa yesterday night. She
Mm,
drove across the country.
for the
Um,
umpteenth time.
yeah. And she says, after 3 long days on the road, we've arrived in Ottawa. It's impossible to drive across this beautiful, rugged country and feel even an ounce of bitterness, she wrote.
Oh,
I've got much to catch up on, but first, sleep. She's handled this with just so much grace. I would be just
mhm.
full of bile and vitriol for
Oh,
everybody involved.
I'd be walking bitterness. I'd be a
Oh, yeah.
walking squeezed lemon is what I'd be.
Oh, yeah.
But this is the reason why one day in Western Canada, we're gonna see statues of that woman.
Yep.
We are
Yep.
gonna put up bronze statues of that woman.
Um, she also reacted to Polyev's public support of her on X. She said, "It is with the deepest
Oh,
gratitude that I thank you for acknowledging and bringing awareness to the two-tiered legal system we are witnessing unfold in Canada. There's a fine line between politics and the judiciary, as there should be, and I have long understood the uncomfortable position elected officials find themselves in when commenting on cases that are before the court. In our case, the double standard and the vindictive nature from the prosecution office has become too obvious to ignore and will set a precedent going forward that will affect all Canadians who choose to peacefully protest or deter them from exercising their charter rights to peacefully assemble." Thank you, Mr. Polyev. She's completely right.
absolutely, yes, and, all of the praise in the universe to the Conservative Party of Canada for jumping on this, bandwagon ahead of the parade. It was Pierre Poilievre, it was Melissa Lantsman, it was Michelle Rempel-Gardner, it was Andrew Lawton, who all spoke out on this yesterday ahead of the sentencing hearing,
Tina Allison, I think, too.
yes, sorry, yes, amongst many, many others, okay, amongst many, many others,
Mhm.
and huge props to the Conservative Party of Canada who are finding their balls post-election. This is the Conservative Party that we want to see. We want to see the Conservative Party of Canada doing what
Right,
is right, regardless of if they have the permission of
right.
the establishment or the corrupt mainstream media. Conservatives are thirsty to see the Conservative Party do the right thing, and in this case, they absolutely did.
Yeah, Deputy Leader Melissa Lantsman said, "Yup, violent criminals are back on the streets in hours. Anti-Semitic mobs block traffic, intimidate families, and trash businesses with zero consequences."
Let's go, girl. Yep.
Meanwhile, the Crown wants 7 and 8 year prison sentences over a nonviolent protest from 3 years ago. If the Crown suddenly wants to apply the law, equal application of law would be a good start. But this is
Mm.
political vengeance, not actual justice, and that's why trust in our institutions is dwindling. Yeah.
Girl, couldn't have said it better. Truly couldn't have said it better. And that really echoes what we've been saying for years, Sheila Gunn Reid. It really echoes what we've been saying for years. Conservative Party MPs should mirror the thoughts and opinions of the people that elected them. And this is a perfect example of them doing exactly that. I'd like to see them being brave like this on many, many issues, including gender in
Yeah.
Canada.
Now, from the United States, Robert Barnes, he's a US trial lawyer. He's sent a few tweets about this. We talked about one yesterday, but this is what he posted um, in response to the US revoking visas for a Brazilian judge and his allies over Bolsonaro prosecution.
Hmm.
And he says we should do the same to Canada for wrongful prosecution of trucker convoy leaders.
You hearing this, Americans? Yes. Absolutely yes.
If Russia did this to people involved in peaceful anti-government protests, Mark Carney would lose his marbles and Melanie Jolie would go into overdrive.
Mhm.
But because it's happening here at the hands of the Liberals and by extension, Doug Ford's Crown, it's just the Canadian legal system at work.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets a free pass, and it should not get a free pass. And that's a crazy thing is we've seen steady yet incremental uh, destruction of trust in our um, of our public institutions, to the point where when even crazy, hideous, unforgivable things happen, Canadians are like, well, meh, that's just the way it works.
Yeah.
It actually doesn't anywhere else in the world. And we've let them get away with so much corruption that we don't see the most blatant examples when they're shown to us unvarnished. And so to put a fine point on it, yeah, the United States should do something. Yes, they should.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I want to show you how bad this is. Like how bad is the Crown asking for 7 and 8 years, respectively, for Leach and Barber, plus crushing Chris's truck. Paul Champ,
No.
the lawyer crazy person, okay, for the busybodies, worrywarts, and well-kept public sector bureaucrats in downtown Ottawa, he says that the Crown is way out of line. So he's saying Leach and Barber sentencing will take place this week. There's no question it was serious, and they have spent 3 years showing the opposite of remorse for what they did to the people of Ottawa. Nothing happened to the people of Ottawa. They were inconvenienced. But
Right.
an 8-year sentence is ridiculous. In my opinion, no custody for Leach, 6 months for Barber.
So even their acolytes are saying this is crazy.
He's the guy suing the convoy for cajillions.
Well, this is like never have we had a better example of a state funded show trial in the
Yeah.
history of the world. Okay, we know that show trials exist, but we as Canadians are used to seeing those show trials happening, typically in America, where they're a little bit more litigious than we are. Here in Canada, we have the greatest example of an absolutely unhinged and unmitigated disaster of a show trial, because this never was about
Yeah.
getting justice for the poor inconvenienced people for Ottawa.
The
This
victims here was the government.
Right, right. And so this is an action by the state to do, I think, two things: to serve as a warning to Canadians to never ever cross the government like this again,
Yeah.
and to do well, to put the fear of God in Canadians, that if they do, this is the exact treatment that you're going to get. But in any case, I'm sort of two minds of this. On one hand, I'm relieved that this chapter of Tamara and Chris's life is going to come to a close. We're going to have an answer tomorrow, regardless. But I am also very, very trepidatious about what might happen, because do we trust the government to do the right thing, Canada? Do we? No,
No.
of course we don't. We've seen them do the wrong thing for the last 10 years consistently. And I have no confidence that they're going to do the right thing tomorrow. So,
I just thought I would pull up the Toronto 18 terrorism case. 17 suspects were charged for attempting a terrorism plot in Toronto. And anyway, I'm just going back because I'm curious about what those people got. So, in the summer of 2006, police carried out a massive anti-terrorism sweep in southern Ontario. 17 people, 13 adults, and 4 youth were arrested in a series of June raids. An 18th individual was detained 2 months later. So, Toronto 18, it was a plan to bomb the Toronto Stock Exchange and other
oh,
prominent buildings. The other was an attempt to create a large Al-Qaeda type cell in Toronto. Well, I think they've sort of accomplished that. They played the long game on this. To arm themselves with weapons and create some sort of mayhem that would scare the Canadian public into withdrawing troops from Afghanistan. I'm curious what the sentences ended up. 7.5 years, 12 to 18 years, 7 years. So the Crown is asking for terrorism related sentences.
why has Doug Ford not smacked the ass of the people that would have done this and dragged this out over this many years? How many years are we on? 3 years?
3
Tens of
years.
millions of taxpayer dollars spent on this persecution. Where is Doug Ford in this?
Yeah.
Aside from lumbering off to pride parades and making fancy announcements that he loves Mark Carney, where the hell is he? This is so important. Where is Doug Ford?
So the Toronto 18, they plotted an Al-Qaeda terror attack, two separate ones, uh, in favor of Al-Qaeda. And, the sort of the sentencing range goes from 6.5 years all the way up to, oh, sorry, 2.5 years, all the way up to, I think, 20 years in prison. So the mean is sort of around 6.5, 7 years for a lot of these guys. And the Crown is asking
And they
for
were gonna kill people. They were gonna kill people.
hundreds. Um, and so the Crown is asking for sedition style sentencing for mischief charges. So they are being sentenced for the crime the Crown wishes they could have charged them with.
So while law is supposed to create order, what is it, Sheila? Recommendations like this from the Crown does is actually erode Canadians' trust in the entire system. Okay,
Yep.
because we are seeing this happen in live time. We are keeping up to this case like it impacts all of us because it does. If anything, this is one of those very rare cases where just regular everyday Canadians can actually see themselves in the position of either Tamara Lich or Chris Barber. Okay.
Yep.
Everybody can sort of see themselves in the position that these two are now in. Um, and making a sentencing recommendation like this is, well, number one, it's unforgivable, number one, but it also devalues the entire system of
Yep.
law and order. This is law and chaos. Okay, doing things like this creates chaos and creates a deep distrust amongst everyday regular Canadians when it does not make sense to them. And this sentencing recommendation from the Crown that Doug Ford could have intervened in doesn't make sense to any common sense Canadian. It is ridiculous.
It brings the administration of justice into disrepute.
Does
That
it ever?